So if you have ever studied a second language, and especially a language that is not very close to your native one, you have most probably recognized that literal translations usually do not work. And this is especially easy to recognize with idioms. For example, in Finnish, you can say nappisuoritus, which literally means button performance, but it actually just means perfect performance. But while this is very easy to recognize with idioms, it is also important to understand that this goes for most normal and regular words as well. So it might, for example, be that the translation depends a lot on context, or that the word you are translating includes things that are not included in the translation, or vice versa. So the word you have translated does not include some meanings that are included in the translation. And for some people, this might actually be pretty difficult to grasp, especially if they are not that familiar with other languages. And for those who are familiar, I think these are just very interesting things. So I'll give you an example of Finnish. So this story actually begins in my elementary school, in my English class, where we learned names for the subjects in school. So we learned words like PE, physical education, mathematics, English, which of course for us was like a second language we learned in school. And then we learned biology, history, and then physics and chemistry. And just so you know, in Finland, we have subjects in school that are called physics and chemistry. And I was actually quite old when I learned that that is not the case apparently in at least some English-speaking countries. But it does not, of course, mean that the people who are in school in countries that do not have subjects called chemistry and physics do not learn the same things as we learn in physics and chemistry class. And that is because they usually have a subject called science. So actually, the first time I learned the word for science was in the context of research, universities, and studies. And in that context, I learned that science should be translated in Finnish as tiede. But then when I heard for the first time that people in schools have a subject called science, and it only includes themes of chemistry and physics, and maybe some other natural sciences, I was actually quite baffled. And why is that? That is because the word tiede, science in Finnish, actually includes all fields of science, all fields of study. So when I say tiede in Finnish, I am always including all natural sciences, so chemistry, physics, mathematics, computer science, biology, and then I am also including geography, geology, history, psychology, educational studies, and so on. So the word tiede actually means a lot more in Finnish than it usually means in English. And this is a very good example how a literal translation does not always work. You really cannot translate the school subject science as tiede in Finnish, because tiede would mean that the subject includes all fields of study. If there was a subject called tiede, that should include chemistry as well as history. So this is a great example how literal translations do not work with regular words either that often. And it is very good to learn different languages so you can widen your perspective of the language and start to understand that in your language some things might be included in a word that you would translate in a certain way, but the other word that you translate to might actually include or not include things that you think that the original word would include.